I've come to review a story about a man whose eyes were heavy with the weight of all he'd seen. Hello, my fellow Whovians, and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review Doctor Who, A Town Called Mercy, starring Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. A Town Called Mercy, this is the third episode of Doctor Who Series 7, and it was aired in 2012. And this Doctor Who story sees us go on location to quite an interesting place, shall we say. It's actually the first Western Doctor Who story in quite some time. I don't believe there's been many Western Doctor Who stories. I think there's only really been this and The Gunfighters. The story was written by Toby Whithouse and directed by Saul Metzstein, and the plot is as follows. Missing Mexico by 200 miles, the Doctor ends up in Mercy, Nevada, where something's not quite right. The locals are hostile to strangers, and a border of stone and wood surrounds the town. As the Doctor soon finds out, a gunslinger is behind this. And not just an ordinary one. Okay, A Town Called Mercy. Well, I have to say, this is a fantastic Doctor Who story. I absolutely loved this story. I thought it was brilliant. It's definitely one of the best Matt Smith Doctor Who stories by far. I think this is a story that looks very cinematic. It feels like a proper sort of, old... like a Clint Eastwood movie, like a John Wayne film. It has that kind of look about it. The cinematography for this story is beautiful. This is one of the most visually stunning Doctor Who stories I've ever witnessed, and certainly it puts some of the cheaper looking stories in the classic era to shame with the way that it looks. Like, I could see A Town Called Mercy being screened in the cinema, and it would be absolutely amazing. I love the location as well, the town of Mercy, the way they've kind of built this entire western town, and it looks really authentic and really cool. Like, there's a beginning scene where the Doctor, Amy, and Rory go into a bar, and it looks so brilliant. It's authentic. I think production design wise, this one just looks absolutely superb. The script itself is actually pretty damn good. I think the story actually holds up. It's got dramatic weight, it's got conflict, it's got tension. It's basically got everything you want in Doctor Who. And there's even a little touch of humour as well. And also, we get to hear Matt Smith's American accent for the first time, which is interesting. I think the Gunslinger is one of the best Doctor Who... Well, I guess he's not really a villain, but he's one of the best Doctor Who monsters ever conceived. I think the design is awesome. He's like this sort of cyborg cowboy, and the origins of the character and how he was created and why he was created by Carla Jex are really, really interesting. It keeps the story kind of going. They give the character a really personal angle. Like, he's not technically the villain of the story. It depends on your perspective, but I think the main villain of the story is Carla Jex. But again, it depends on how you perceive it. I don't think we are meant to perceive the Gunslinger as the central villain, even though he is the thing that looks like a villain. He's on a personal quest for vengeance, and I think it's a really interesting story. The Gunslinger is actually played by Andrew Brooke, who does a really good job, and I love the voice, the deepness of the voice that they've given him. The cast are really good as well. I think this is easily one of Matt Smith's best performances as the Doctor. Just wow. There's that moment where he goes really dark and he gets really angry with Jex. He grabs him, takes him out to the desert, and he throws him on the ground, and he points the gun at him, and he's about to kill him. And he's the Doctor at this point is not willing to show any mercy for him. He's become too emotional about what's happened to the Gunslinger, and the fact that Jex has basically experimented and lied and betrayed everybody. And yeah, it's a really dramatic moment, I must say, and it was really nice to see them edging Matt Smith's Doctor in a darker direction. And then the thing is stopped by Amy when she says, this is what happens when you travel alone for too long. And she manages to snap him out of that that moment, but it's a really interesting moment for Matt Smith, and shows how the Doctor sometimes struggles to always see the best in people. Sometimes he does take things the wrong way and he gets it wrong, and I think that this was a good moment to kind of signify that the Doctor kind of went a bit too far. and Arthur Darvill are good as Amy and Rory respectively. They don't have as much to do in this story, but they are pretty good for what they have. They will feature quite a lot in the next two stories, of course, it being their last two stories. I think the cast are all really good. I like the character of Isaac, played by Ben Browder. He's the marshal of the town, and his death scene is actually quite dramatic. I was surprised how dramatic and emotive the story was. And he really trusts the Doctor, and he gives the Doctor the honour of becoming the Marshal after he dies. And actually, the music score for this story is really good. Murray Gold's music, wow, it's brilliant. Sounds like a proper, authentic Western film. This is like a Western short film. It's so professionally done. Honestly, I think it stands out from the crowd. I also like the preacher, played by Brid Wilkins. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He's the guy who says the prayer. He says, "Our Father who art in heaven, thy kingdom come, thy will be done." You know, that guy. Perhaps there is a bit of talking. There are some slow scenes, but I don't think they're too bad. I was interested in the drama and the conflict that was going on, and the third act of the story is pretty epic when the gunslinger comes to kill Jex and get his revenge. And then, very powerfully, Jex decides to sacrifice himself. I guess by way of an apology. He wants to apologise for mistreating the gunslinger and all the people that he has mistreated. I mean, because he's come into the town as a sort of physician, like he's a doctor who heals people, but he's actually quite a dark character when you think about it. He's messed up the gunslinger's life so much. And the gunslinger is without a purpose, or so he thinks. Once Jex has killed himself, he's trying to let Jex go and let him go free. The Doctor eventually shows mercy, but Jex, answers for his crimes, and he is a bit haunted by what he's done. And he decides, you know what, I'm going to do this to say sorry to them, and it's the right thing. I must admit, the performance by Jex, Adrian Scarborough, who plays Carla Jex, he's a standout for this story as well. This has some of the best performances of the series. I must admit, this is a really, really well-directed story. And yeah, the death of Jex is very powerful, I must admit. And then in the end of the story, we discover the gunslinger becomes the new marshal, and he watches over the town as its protector. And we hear the woman who's narrating, and she says, "Oh, my great-grandmother was only a kid when this all happened." And then we see the little girl looking up at the gunslinger as he's defending, and he's wearing the marshal badge, which is cool. And yeah, the story opens with that narration, with the Southern American woman who's talking about, this is the story about a man whose eyes were heavy with the weight of all he'd seen. Yeah. So I like the added narration. That's really cool. Again, this story is just so authentic. The way it looks, the way it feels, the way it's acted, the way it's written, everything. This is a great script. This is the sort of script that we want for every story. And for me, this is probably the best story of Series 7 Part 1, easily. And it could even be one of the best of Series 7. So with that in mind, I'm going to give A Town Called Mercy a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I think it's a classic. I think it's definitely up there as one of Matt Smith's best stories. And yeah, wow. Yeah, great stuff. So, that's it for my review of A Town Called Mercy. What do you think of this story? Please comment down below, let me know, and stay tuned next time when I review The Power of 3. So until then, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. Thank you for watching. See ya. Bye for now.